Rabbit High Country on the run review today. Yeah, it's a heater out here today. I did drive up a little bit higher, not super high country, but try to find a little cooler temps. Starting off on a big dirt road climb here. Hopefully get into a touch of shade later on, and then on the way back, gonna work my way down on some steeper trails, hit a little moderate slash little technical sections. Maybe starting off on a big hill like this, perhaps not the ideal scenario for this shoe here, given its stack height, its weight, and how it rides. I'll get into that. Let's start with the stack height. 38-33 spec for a 5mm drop. They do separately and specifically list insole height as 5mm. If you caught some of my posts on the shoe, you'll know that a blue maca insole is included along with a standard one, which is kind of Ortholite-esque, open foam, but seems not quite as open as Ortholite. So you get two insoles with the shoe here. I did not take calipers to the individual insole types. They feel roughly the same thickness, so I'm gonna go with 5. I did measure the stack height just to verify, and I got 42 at the heel, so that's 4mm up from their spec. They do mention that 5mm insole, so everything checks out there. 42-37 based on my measurement in combination with the spec drop. By the way, High Country, of course, was provided by Rabbit at no cost for a test and review. They were also nice enough to send me a couple pairs of shorts and a couple really cool t-shirts to pair with the shoes. Kind of helps with the review process. Looks pretty nice to have everything synchronized. Talked about this t-shirt, Ice Perf, in my previous reviews. Also been running in this Shredder's 2-in-1 short. Also, I have the FKT short, which you can see in my on-road video. I'm not gonna dig too deep into the apparel in this review here, except to say that the two shirts have been awesome. Ice Perf and the UPFT. Really love those two. Size medium for me. Both shorts I have in a size small. Shorts do need more testing, so I won't speak too much about the shorts. I've got 11.2 ounces for weight in my US 9.5 here, true to size. Now that weight is for the shoe, including the standard insole. With the blue maca insole, I measured 11.8 ounces, so 0.6 ounce increase with that insole. I did start off testing initially with the blue maca insoles, but then I switched over to the standard one. I didn't really get too much benefit from the blue maca insoles. Felt like maybe I was even sliding around a bit too much in them. They've got those no friction zones. If you get kind of hot spots or, friction in those areas, front of the toes and around the arch area on the medial side, the inner arch, perhaps that could be helpful, but for me, didn't really add up to too much difference. I actually like the textured feel on the top layer of the standard insole, and the shoe is on the heavier side for me. So I would rather have that 0.6 ounce weight savings, bringing me down to 11.2 ounces in the shoes I have on my feet right now. First observation here, as I've been climbing this pretty moderate grade, close to 900 feet, over 2.5 miles so far, the shoe has broken in quite a bit over the course of my testing mileage right out of the box. They definitely felt stiffer. Really noticed a pronounced rocker point around the ball of the foot. It was a little actually disconcerting at first how noticeable that exact spot was, but this shoe does seem to require some amount of break-in period, and as I'm going up here, they don't feel as stiff as they did for sure. Still a lot of shoe to carry up this hill. Also, there is a carbon tracks plate embedded in the midsole, so a little trouble Flexing that one, of course, when it gets steep. Just ran this loop yesterday. Came up this way, down that end of the lollipop in the Cloud Ultra 3. 11.2 ounces, surely on the high side for me, but again, if you've got 42 mil at the heel, north of 40 is probably a different class of shoes. It puts it in the range of shoes like the S-Lab Ultra Glide, Merrell MTL Adapt Matrix. Also, a little shy of the North Face Vective Pro 3, which is very high. It's a couple millimeters short of the recently released Hoka Mafate 5, and of course, a few more millimeters short of the Mafate X. All of those shoes, with exception of the Super Stack Hokas there, they are a bit lighter than this shoe though. Surely comes down to the foam. This one feels definitely denser. The Merrell foam is pretty light. Of course, North Face is higher and the foam feels very light. Same thing with the S-Lab Ultra Glide to an extent. Feels like a less dense foam than this one. This one, very dense, but it does seem to have high rebound. It doesn't kind of squish down. It's just a big, thick slab, dense, but still high rebounding, which is actually pretty interesting. This is called their flow state foam. And again, there is a carbon fiber plate embedded in there. Carbon tracks, they call it. I'm not quite gonna make it as high into those trees over there today. Don't have as much time. I wanna make sure I have time for that descent that I wanna hit. Let's first start off talking about the sizing here. I've got a US 9.5, and that's a good fit for me. I've got about almost a thumb's width. I am wearing Trail Ultra sock here from Sidus, which I mentioned in the Cloud Ultra 3 video is a thin sock inside the shoe, little protective areas on the orange here, but the rest of it is pretty thin. So at 9.5, I'm going with a thin sock. I feel like it's a bit low volume over the top here. The lacing, you can see it kind of narrows down here. It's a little strange. I thought I might at least try to tighten that up a little bit, and I had trouble getting any tension. It's just, these are so close together, and I guess it's so flat, and it's a one piece below here. So you can see the lace throat starts here, but then these two layers are just on top of the mesh material that goes straight across. So it's kind of hard if you have a narrow foot. It might be tricky to kind of squeeze this down. It's just hard to get those laces to tug these two parts of the upper together without that throat being there. I'm okay in a 9.5. I would recommend true to size, unless you have a very wide foot or you're concerned about volume, because it does seem to come kind of tight over the top. Again, I'm not wearing a thick sock here, and I haven't run this shoe with a thick sock because I might have tried it on at home and felt a little bit like squeezed up in here. Perhaps you could size up. You could see I do have lace locking going on. I had some trouble with heel hold. The shoe is just so kind of stiff. I'll take it off right now. It's weird because initially it was extremely stiff, and now that I've got it on the run, it definitely has broken in and has quite a bit more flex to it. I remember I was talking about that flex point. It was like right here, and it was like oddly diagonally across the foot, and it would just kind of, that would be the lever, and I would feel that so noticeably. But on this run and in recent runs, it's really kind of softened up. Maybe the plate softened up a bit, and the foam, just the denseness of it kind of molded around to my foot. So I'm changing my tune a little bit now. I was expecting to say that it was super stiff, but it actually doesn't look that way. In any case, I still get a touch of heel slippage unless I do the lace locking. It's a very smooth, look how much padding is in that upper there. You have that sweep to it too. There's not really, especially in the back here, there's not a lot really coming over the top of the heel bone and locking it down. It's like a kind of a comfort heel. So I tried the lace locking. I was getting pressure on the top of my foot. I don't know if this is a David Roche special. I kind of heard about this. I think I heard him talking about it, but never actually saw him do it. And then I experimented myself and figured out this works. I don't know if this is what he does, but you do your standard lace locking. Okay, so you go through these two hoops and make this little loop here. And then normally, my first runs what I did, you go across, but then that puts an upper higher row, and that was biting my top of my foot there. So what I do here, and I don't know if he does the same thing, you have this kind of, whatever this is, this chain through here. On your way across, you pass the laces through that chain, and that keeps them off of the top of the foot. So you pass them through that little chain, then you go through these like normal lace locking, snug it up pretty good, and you could see that extra row. So the lace locks are doing the job of kind of pulling this heel a little bit more, but this upper row, instead of being here, is down here. And then even though I do tie the lace across up there, given that you have this pulling it down here, there's a gap right here. So this knot and this kind of upper cross row here is not even pressing on the top of my foot, and you get the benefits of that locking there. So that's a little tip. I don't know if I stole that from David Roach, but I never actually saw him do it, so I'm gonna say I might have heard something and adapted it. Anyway, 9.5, true to size. The upper is 60% recycled mesh. I want to say breathability is okay. It doesn't particularly run warm. I would say it's probably medium in terms of breathability. I don't notice my feet being extra hot. Again, I always wear thin socks with this shoe. It's just a massive stack. You could see the platform. Look how wide this goes under the middle of the foot. You could kind of see it there. They have a kind of that boat shape. There's no real narrowing there under the foot. It maintains width pretty much throughout the whole shoe there. So you have just a massive platform. And again, first runs in this shoe, I would say if you get it and you're a little worried, I don't want to get stung here, get away from me. First runs in the shoe felt very stiff, and I was a little bit not sold on this shoe. Very uncomfortable with the rocker being so noticeable and being so stiff, but I seem to have, you could see the compression in that foam there. It seems to have molded to my foot pretty well, and I actually quite like it. But let's head back down and we'll talk about the ride aspect. So thoughts on the ride. It's very smooth, very cushioned. Again, you have that super wide platform under the middle of the shoe and also the heel. If you're landing squarely on the middle of the shoe, and if you're a heel striker, you might actually love this shoe. And I'm kind of doing that here as I'm going downhill now on the road, more on the middle rear of the shoe. I've got Hoka shoes on my mind because I've been testing the Mafate 5 recently, and the shoe makes me think of version 4 in that it's got that soft feel underfoot, but it's not quite as squishy of a softness as the Mafate 4. The foam just seems to rebound more instead of sinking in, but there's a lot of it and there's a lot of weight. So 11.2, as I said, that 4, especially the light version I have, is an even 10 ounces, so quite a bit lighter feel on foot, although softer. Maybe just running through my Rolodex of different shoes, Endurance 4, this foam feels probably softer and more energetic than that shoe even. That shoe has, you know, it's a solid foam, but it doesn't feel overly soft. It's really rocker reliant, the smoothness of that one. This one I get more of a sense of cush underfoot, and I didn't mention the Endurance 4 in terms of stack height because it is south of 40 millimeters in the heel, and this one being 42, probably not an apt comparison. Thinking about the Pro 3 is even higher. It's even more crazier, more bouncy. The plates give it just more action than this shoe. This is probably, you know, I would say upper hold in this shoe is not as good as the North Face for sure, but it's kind of like a pared down, more relaxed version of the Vective Pro 3 ride. More comfort oriented, I would say. I put my fair share of gravelly miles, canal path miles in these. My daughter had her guitar class, and that's when I get to run on the flat gravel path there. And this shoe is great for that. I mean, if you're okay with the weight, this shoe just rocks along on a flat gravel path. Again, another thing I'll note that I've got comments about, heavier runners. This could be one for you for sure, just because the denseness of that foam. I know I've heard from bigger runners that perhaps a lot of these airy, super soft foams, they just compress too much and doesn't have the same effect as they do for lighter runners. This would be a shoe to look at because the foam does feel denser underfoot. It's going to absorb more impact than a lighter foam for sure. Outsole here they call 360 grip or 360 degree grip, whatever it is. 4 mil lugs. I've noticed no issues at all. They've been great. I've been, sticking mainly to moderate terrain, lighter trails. I know in their product activation, they did a rim to rim to rim in this shoe, and I would say, similar type of dry terrain, rocky, of course, more steps and stuff like that. I would trust that the outsole is gonna perform fine in most conditions. As you can see, no hint of rain recently, so wet test is pending. Maybe I'll do a larger wet test with a whole bunch of shoes whenever it finally does rain. This shoe is so comfortable underfoot. Really amazing going downhill like this. I'm actually quite surprised. I don't think I've kind of bombed down quite a steady hill like this so far in any of my test runs. I've been keeping it more kind of flat and rolling. Glad I'm giving this a try here. It's almost like I've got a custom molded footbed underfoot. I think it's just maybe how the shoe has broken in around my foot and everything. It just feels like every millimeter underfoot is kind of cradled and supported, and that works really well going downhill here. It's really, really eating up the impact. Not feeling anything. Certainly if I heel mash or land in the middle or even a little bit forward or transitioning to the forefoot on the steeper parts from the heel or middle of the shoe, it doesn't get that kind of sloppy harshness on the forefoot. Just feel consistent cushion throughout. Really nice here. Change of plans here. I'm gonna do a shorter and steeper out and back for my up and down. The down is on the back side of this parking lot. Heads down through there. Then I'm gonna go up that motorcycle trail, hit to the top there, and then come right back down and back, and that will be plenty steep and fast enough. Running faster in uneven rocky terrain, definitely more challenging in this shoe and a lot of those other shoes that are like this, high stack, high rebounding foam, and wide platform. I don't know if you could tell going down there, definitely find myself chopping up my stride a bit more, shorter steps, really taking care to ensure that the entire ground platform has a good landing spot. A little bit risky to land on something uneven or just catch an edge somewhere, even twists and turns. Taking a little bit of extra care not to get on the edges of the shoe. Just find myself centering myself more on my ground strikes, which I think is just something that comes naturally and you adapt to when you're running in different shoes. This up and down segment here is definitely steeper with a bit punchier spots than the road part that I was running on earlier. Definitely get going faster on the way back down for sure. As I mentioned, feeling way better, more flexible than my initial test runs. Noticeable on the way up here. If you have this shoe, I would say maybe wait 20 to 30 miles, reserve judgment on these till they break in that bit there. I think after this run, I'll be around 40. So they're feeling great and much improved at this point. I was up the road earlier, up that way. Hey, catch my breath here before I turn around and head right back down that way. Yeah, I wouldn't expect miracles, you know, in technical terrain, very steep downhills in this shoe. It's a wide platform, it's a lot underfoot, but I do have kind of recent experience with the Vective Pro 3 out at Beaverhead, and I would say it has a similar kind of, not as energetic of a plate, not as dynamic of a foam, but trending in that direction. So it feels similar on foot, and the security is really good going downhill. Again, I'm size down a half compared to that North Face shoe and thinner socks. I feel pretty stable in here. Again, I'm not pushing it like crazy on the descents. I want to be careful. It's just, I don't know if it's, I mean, it's definitely not made for that, but garbage bag here. Yeah, don't expect miracles on technical downhills, but smoother bombing downhills. A lot of this is going to be steep, but not crazy rocky. So I'm going to try to get it going, and I think it's going to feel nice and solid. It's just bomber downhill, no impact, really. Could be one of the best downhill shoes for absorbing impact while not being too mushy and, you know, keeping that stability intact. The plate probably helps with that. You know, keep it from getting squirrely underfoot. It keeps it directed forward. May hurt lateral stability. Of course, again, it's so wide, you got to be careful, but man, rocking a downhill in this, especially runnable, man, you could let them fly. So, hey, why don't I'll talk while I come down here. Buttoning up for a fast descent here. Noticing the difference in steepness here compared to the road right away. Foothold is still pretty good. I'm not completely strapped down, but I think that's acceptable given the style of the shoe. Again, chopping up my steps a little bit more here, a little more cautious. Light is also bit flat, grayish tinted ground. Sometimes it's hard to spot these dusted over rocks and protrusions here. Oop, little step. But I've run this section a bit, so I know what to expect. I do have those dual grip zones on the side of socks here, so even though I'm not wearing that blue maca insole, which is advertised to kind of hold the foot in place, give you some traction underfoot, except for those anti-friction areas. The sock here has these kind of bands woven into it, front and the back in this model, and that's doing the job for me. No problem. And again, I'll take the plus half ounce lighter weight with these regular insoles here. Did spot check the watch there. I was running sub 6 minute pace, around mid 5 minute per mile there on some of those descents, which is nothing crazy going downhill, but still moving pretty fast in a big shoe like this. So thank you for watching once again. Like and subscribe, all the usual stuff. Check out humblerunning.com, sign up for the newsletter, yada yada. Check out the description below. I'm trying to mention that a little bit more recently. Lots of links, affiliate codes, all that kind of stuff down in there, so always just give it a look if you watch the video or even make it to the end. check the description for some related content. If you have been running in Rabbit, let me know what you think down in the comments. I think they have some road shoes, or if you have this trail model here, let me know what you think. Their first stab at it, pretty interesting to go full carbon plate hot out of the gates. Or if you have Rabbit apparel, shirts, shorts, any other kind of stuff. Just by chance, before getting this Rabbit stuff to test, I got a promo shirt from the Beaverhead race. So that was probably my first piece of Rabbit apparel. It's a different kind of shirt, different model, but it also has these perforations. Really like it. This is one of my favorite shirts now. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a great day out on the trails. Just got a rattlesnake warning up ahead here. He said it went off the trail, but I don't know what it is with me and the wildlife in the videos recently.
I'm going right. Where are you sure the rattlesnake was?
Were you letting me be the bait there?
Oh no, well, rattlesnakes, they rattle.
Yeah.
So it's like a warning. I'd be worried if I was climbing.
Yeah.
Then it's like one of those.
Oh,
but
sometimes you're going downhill and then you have to take a leap.
I've seen the, yeah, totally, because you're going so fast.
Uh-huh.
But